Hey everyone, welcome to my to-go class this week. I'm April Davis with April Davis Creations, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Spring Hill, Kansas. Today is Wednesday, April 9th, 2025, and I'm really excited to share with you the cards that we're making today. But before I get to that, there's a few things that I want to share with you. For example, when I've started doing door prize drawings or drawings when people like and share my videos and or leave comments. So you can leave comments in Facebook, you can leave comments on YouTube. If you like and share on YouTube, you just need to leave a comment that says that you liked and shared, because I can't see it. I can see it in Facebook, but I can't see it on YouTube. And I want you to get credit. So last week, the door prize drawings, or the drawings for people liking, sharing, and commenting, go to Diane Cody. And Diane, you're going to be receiving the Thoughtful Journey Memories and More pack. Congratulations. I have your mailing address, so I'll go ahead and get that out to you. And then also Orchard Girl, you won one of the drawings as well. This is the Mixed Media Florals Memories and More card pack. So Orchard Girl, I'm not sure I have your information. So if I don't have your information, please message me on Facebook or send me an email to aprildaviscreations@gmail.com. I was looking to see if I had it here that I could put it up on the screen real quick. Send me an email so that I can get your shipping information and get these out to you. Additionally, last week I had two drawings that I drew for. One was for Danette Linville 610. And Lynette, I haven't heard from you yet, or Danette, I haven't heard from you yet. I've got your package waiting here. Please contact me this week. If I don't hear from you this week, that'll be 2 weeks, and I will put your product back in the drawing pool, if you will. So please reach out to me. And also Sharon Lowry, I haven't heard from you as well. You were the drawing last week, winner last week. So again, please send me your contact information so that I can get these in the mail to you. Otherwise, again, it'll go back into the drawing pool. All right, so that's that. Then I also wanted to share with you just what's going on with me. If you're on my email list, you see it all the time, as far as what I've got going on. I try to share at the start of the to-go classes that I do, or the live classes that I do when I'm doing them live. But I want to just go ahead and share with you what's going on right now, because there's a lot of activity. If you go to aprildaviscreations.com, I'm going to take this one down and I'm going to put this one up. It's pretty easy to find me, aprildaviscreations.com. Anyway, if you go to aprildaviscreations.com and you go to classes and clubs, we'll come back up to the to-go class, because that's what this is, right? But I also wanted to share with you that I have a Link Together Technique Time class that I am partnering with my friend in New York, Marcia, and she is doing 5 cards. I am doing 5 cards. These are all techniques that we're incorporating into this Link Together bundle. You're going to receive a package of the beautiful Bokeh DSP, all the cardstock you need to create the cards, a silicone mat, a small blending brush, and a full package of the iridescent foil gems. That will all come in your kit. You're also going to get all of the measurements for each of the cards. I call it a recipe, if you will. So it gives you all the measurements that you need. Plus, you're going to get a detailed video tutorial playlist. So each card will have its own video tutorial. So if you're interested in this particular class, learning some techniques and utilizing the Link Together bundle, then you want to make sure that you register by April 18th. And then the kits will ship out to you on April 30th. And when you get your kit, or when we ship the kit, you'll also get the playlist for the video tutorials. All right, so that's one. And then I'm going to bring up the Heirloom Arrangements Alternative. This kit is amazing, and I've partnered with my friend in Canada, Tina, and we are making alternatives to this kit. So I've made 5 alternatives, Tina's making 5 alternatives, and you'll get the full kit, plus You'll get all of the cardstock that you need to create the alternative cards. And again, you're going to get all the measurements and a recipe, and then you're also going to get a step-by-step video tutorial. So you'll have everything that you need. This registration actually closes on April the 20th, and your kit will ship on the 25th. Then we've got a special Facebook group that you'll be invited to, where all of this information will be posted on May 5th, and everybody who's participating in this can share their cards, can ask questions, and we'll monitor that Facebook group so you guys have some connections there. All right, back up. I've got two clubs going on. We've got the Create Happiness Club. The Create Happiness Club is a bi-monthly, so it's every other month. These cards are stepped up, if you will. If you are an avid crafter and you like a little bit of a challenge, that's what these cards are. You will get everything that you need in your kit with the exception of the bundle that's being utilized. But you'll also get $25 in product to that will come with the kit. And then once you've been a member of the club for 6 months, you'll get an additional $25 in free product that you can utilize on anything you want. All this information is out here on my website. And then last but not least, we have the Crafting Happiness Club. And this club is a monthly club. This are plain and simple cards. They're beautiful, but they're very simple. And you get the tutorial with it. You get anywhere from $22 to $25 worth of product that comes with it. Everything that you need with the exception of the bundle, but it's delivered right to your front door. It's the easy button. So if you're interested in a monthly card club, this subscription actually ends on April the 20th, and then you're automatically billed every month, and you'll get your kit every month, and they're fun cards. So I hope if you're interested in the card club, you'll consider this one. All right, so let's come back up to the to-go class. I know I'm talking fast, but I'm really excited to get to the cards that I'm working on today. So this to-go class, it's a free class. I'm sharing it with you now. If you're interested in the kit that I'm showing today, and you're interested in getting it for free, you can place an order in my online store, and I will ship to you all of the cardstock, designer series paper, everything that you need with the exception of the bundles, but everything you need to create these cards, and 2 of each card. Now what's fun about this is I'm using 3 different bundles, but you'll note when we start to make these cards that you can use anything in your library. You don't have to have these unless you absolutely want them to look like my cards, or perhaps you already have these in your card, your bundle or your library as well. So all you have to do is place an order in my online store by April 13th, and you'll get the kit for free. Or I'm also offering up the option for you to purchase the kit only, which means that I would just ship out the cardstock and the pieces that you need to create these cards without an order in my online store. But it's a good deal for if you place an order. All right, so that's what's going on with the to-go class. Let me come back to you for just a second, and let me take things down off the screen, and I'm going to pull out the cards that we're going to be making today, and I'll show those to you. So let me bring this up, and we'll get this going. All right, here we go. So I'm calling this the Elegant Layers class, or the Layered Elegance class, I should say. And basically the reason that I'm doing that is because what we're doing is we're layering, and it's just so elegant. So the Layered Elegance. So we've got this card that we're going to be creating. And I'm also, just to share with you, I don't do this very often, but we're working on the inside of the card, and we also have an envelope for the card. And then we've got this one. This is a congratulations card using the Stippled Roses set. And we also have a envelope for it. And then the last card, we're utilizing the sketched butterflies. And again, just a little bit of something on the inside. And then the envelope. So we've got these 3 cards that we're going to be making today. And I was inspired to make these cards by Connie Stewart. If you've not visited her channel before, please stop out and see her. She's got some amazing stuff. But she inspired me to create these cards and to share with you today. So let's go ahead and let's create this one first. And we'll go ahead and pull out the kit. And in this kit, we have some basic black cardstock. We have petal pink. I'm utilizing the Unbound Beauty Designer Series paper. Then I have my envelope, obviously, that we're going to decorate. I've got a piece of basic white. I've got some more pieces of the basic black and just all the pieces that I'm going to need to be able to create this card. So what we're going to do is we are going to create layers. And there's a number of different ways that you can do this. I'm going to show you one way to start if you do not have a stamp positioner. I prefer to use a stamp positioner. But if you don't have a stamp positioner, this is how you're going to want to do it. So I'm going to take my petal pink cardstock, and then I'm going to take my Designer Series paper, and this is where I'm going to start my stamping. And just so that I don't have any movement, I'm going to use my seal. I'm just going to put just a tiny bit of seal on the back of this just to hold it in place, and I want to get it centered. And you do your best. I mean, you can measure it out if you want to. I'm just kind of eyeing it. Whoops. So it's going to be down, but it's just holding it minimally. Okay. And then I'm going to utilize the Spotlight on Nature stamp set. I loved these flowers, and I'm going to actually do this twice. So I'm going to pull this out, grab a block so I can get my stamp on here. And then we're going to utilize the Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And again, I'm just double checking this to make sure that I have it centered the way that I want it centered. I don't want it to move. And then we're going to stamp twice. And I'm stamping on my glass mat, so I don't need to worry about having a lot of scrap paper underneath. But I'm going to make sure I get this inked up really, really well. And I'm going to stamp once. Make sure I've got this centered. And let me see, I'm going to stamp off. Let me see how far I want to come up. Stamp here. And I'm really going to give it some pressure because I have to get my Designer Series paper and I have to get my cardstock. Now this is how we would do it if we were not using a stamp positioner. And you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a second. So I'm stamping across both, making sure I get, especially right here at the edge, as much pressure as I can. And then I'm going to pick it up. And you can see for the most part, it's stamped on both. There, you'll see just a little bit of a space here, and we'll work on that in just a second. But I'm going to take my chamois and I'm just going to clean this up because I don't want to get it on my card. And we're going to stamp again. So I'm going to ink this up. This is a really, really fun card to make. And you start going through all of your library of flowers and things that you've got, and it just makes it so much fun. All right, so I'm going to make sure I get this lined up again, and I'm just going to stamp again. All right, I'm going to stop here. All right. Again, I want to make sure I get a good adherence to my cardstock and my Designer Series paper. All right, once I've got that stamped, it's all good. Let me go ahead and get this cleaned up before we do anything else. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take the ink off of my stamp pad as well. I'll clean up more later. All right, so let me put this away. And now what I wanna do is I wanna bring back in a piece of the basic black that I cut. And this is cut so that it just barely is outside my Designer Series paper. And then what you're going to do is you're going to line this up like this, and now you've got your layer, right? So let's go ahead and let's start getting these adhered. I've got a tiny bit of seal on the back of this, but it's not enough to hold it. So let's go ahead and get this glued down. And actually, I'm going to do this, but because I've already got glue on the back of it. But there's one more thing that I need to stamp, and that is the thanks. And I try to do that before I adhere things down, but we're good. So let me pull out the stamp set again, and we're going to use this thanks. And so let me pull it out. I'll grab a little block. And let's go ahead and get this stamped. Then we can continue to build. All right, I want to make sure that I get this lined up, so I'm going to pull it down just a little bit, just so that I feel like I can get a fairly decent, oh good, it lined up really well. All right, so let's do that, get this cleaned off, and we'll continue to build. Whoops. Okay. So now we're going to bring this back in, and we want to get this lined up, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put this down with dimensionals. So let me go ahead and get my dimensionals on the back here. Just kind of gives it some dimension. So I'll go ahead and do that. Use my taper pick to take the backs off here. Okay. And then again, line this up. And that black is going to basically take care of that little border that we saw when we were stamping initially. And it does a pretty good job. So let me get this lined up here. I'm going to press this down. And now, isn't that pretty? Okay, now what we'll do is we'll bring in the card base. And I'm going to go ahead and burnish the edges on that. And we'll go ahead and we'll get this layered down. It's coming together, isn't it? All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Make sure I get this centered the way that I want to. We've got that. How pretty is that? And then the inside, we're going to take this piece and we'll just take some of the designer series paper that I've cut to match. So let's go ahead and get that adhered. Okay, get this down. And then we'll adhere that to the inside. So you can see how easy these cards are. They really are. Like I said, I'm going to show you 2 different ways to make those, but this is the one that you may use when you're not using a stamp positioner. If you happen to have a stamp positioner, then I think you'll like this next way. But in the meantime, here we go. Now, the only thing we have left to do, and I had a couple of extra pieces of scrap, is we need to do our envelope, right? So basically what I did is I just cut a piece of scrap that's big enough to cover my flap. And I'm just going to take my glue and put it on my flap. And then we'll go ahead and we'll adhere this, line it up. Make sure we get it secured down. And then I'm just going to take my snips and we're just going to trim this off. Okay, so let me go ahead and start trimming this. So easy to do. Trim this. There we go. Move that out of the way. Now we have our flap for our envelope. We have our card, and our first card is now done. Isn't that pretty? All right, let's bring in card number 2. I'm gonna move these out of the way. And we're gonna bring in card number 2. And this is going to be card number 2. I love this Stippled Rose set. But there's a lot to it. So I'm using crumb cake for my base. I have another piece of crumb cake that we're going to stamp on. The paper that we're using is coming from the Country Woods Designer Series paper. I've got another piece that we're going to utilize for the envelope. So I'm going to set the envelope aside. I have a piece for the inside so that we can stamp on the inside. And then I've got my piece that we're going to utilize to layer that. And I just want to double check. Okay, making sure I haven't forgotten anything. Okay, this time we're going to utilize the stamp positioner. Now, Stampin' Up! Had a stamp positioner at one point in time, and I still use it a lot, but I also have other stamp positioners. If you've ever heard of My Sweet Petunia has the Misty stamp positioner. So I go back and forth. I use a lot of different ones, but basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my main piece, and let me see, the Stippled roses are rubber stamps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out this piece because I don't need that in there, and I'm going to take my card base and I'm just going to kind of line it up in here, and I'm just going to hold it in place. So I'm going to put a little bit of seal behind it, and then I'll layer it down here. And then I've got my Designer Series paper. Let me bring it out. Whoops, not that piece, this piece. And again, we're going to center it in here, right? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get that centered. Whoops, my seal's being a little difficult. So I want this to be straight. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to center it as best I can, top to bottom. So I think I've got this centered the way that I wanted. It's going to work. And then I'm going to take my stamps and I'm going to pull this stamp out first. Let me move this stuff out of the way so that I can see. And let me see, I'm going to turn my roses this way. So I'm going to lay my roses down here, and I want it to come off of the bottom, go side to side. So it's going to go right about here. And then I have another stamp that I'm going to put at the very top. So let me take this one, and we are going to layer it probably right about here. Okay, so it's staying on my main base. Okay, so we've got that. Now what we can do is we can close this up and then lift this up. So now when I get ready to stamp, everything stays in the same place. So this time around, we are going to utilize the Early Espresso ink. So let me go ahead and get these inked up. And the nice part about this is if I don't get them stamped the way that I want them stamped the first time, I can always do it again. So I'm going to close this up, make sure everything's where it should be, and we're going to stamp. I want to get it everywhere. And I'm putting a little bit of pressure because remember we're stamping in two places, but this is going to be a little bit different. So let me look at this. It's okay. You can see where we missed some spots here and we missed some spots here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ink it up one more time, but I'm really not too worried about that. What I really want is I want to get this part a little bit darker. So let's go ahead and we're going to do this again. I'm pushing really hard here. Okay, but you can still see on this one in particular, we've got a lot of space that didn't get stamped. I can close this up. So we've stamped this. I still have spacing along here, but I'm not going to worry about it. All I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the center piece out. This is still lined up the way that I had it lined up before. I'm going to ink it again. Place it down and stamp. And you can see I need to make it a little bit darker. So Not too terribly bad because most of this is going to be hidden, but I want to get it close. So we're going to do this again. Okay, I've got this in here. Now what's going to happen, I'll clean this up in just a second, but what I'll do is I will adhere this, and then we'll bring this in and we'll line it up. And now those pieces that we had before that were kind of missing or that were open, they're covered up, right? I want to get a little bit more over here. The beauty of a stamp positioner is everything goes back to the same place. Okay, good enough for me. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out so that we can actually start building our card. But I do have a nice little mess here. So the nice thing about our Simply Chamois is that I can take this out and use it to help clean this up. You saw me do this on the first one too. Because these are on the inside of my stamp positioner, it's too hard to get them turned over to get them to clean. So my chamois folds up so that I can do that, and then I can get these nice and clean. All right. Now that that's all cleaned up, I can put this off to the side, and I'll move my positioner out of the way. I need to close my ink up because I still have it open. And let's go ahead and bring this back in and start building this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to place this layer on the early espresso layer. Okay, move this off to the side. Get this lined up. That looks good. Okay, and then I'm going to bring this layer in, and we're going to go ahead and get this lined up. So I'm just going to kind of look at it, see how I want to get it lined up. That looks really good. Let me see. Did I put this one? No, I did not. This one is not on dimensional. So we're going to go ahead and get it lined up. But you can see that I was able to avoid those spaces that you saw. And I think probably what you're going to have to do is just kind of test your stamp. I didn't have any problems with the previous stamp that we did, but obviously for this one, I noticed a lot more white space. So I'm getting this lined up the way that it needs to be lined up. We'll bring our base in. I've got a little bit of seal on the back of that. That's why it's sticky, but not a problem. And basically what I did is I actually put this one popped up, this layer. So let me bring my dimensionals back in. I'm going pretty light on the dimensionals. You know, I tend to get a little bit heavy with the dimensionals, but I'm going light this time. Not for any other reason except for I'm just trying to move a little bit faster since these cards take a little bit more, and I'm doing the envelopes and insides as well. So have this lined up the way that I want it. And now the one thing that I didn't do again, got distracted, is I didn't do my congratulations. So we are going to attempt to do that congratulations. The second time I've done that, I got to pay attention to that. I get so distracted with the other part of the process that I forget to do this part. So we're going to, let me see. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring my stamp positioner back in. The reason I'm going to do this is I have this up with dimensionals. So I want to be, I really don't want to mess this up, but I also want my congratulations on there. So I'm taking my stamps off, and I'm going to take my congratulations. I'm going to put this back in, and I've got some magnets that are going to help me hold this in place. So I'm going to put a magnet here, and I'm going to put a magnet here to hold my card in place. Then I'm going to take my congratulations and place it here. And then double check. I'm looking to see if It looks pretty straight. All right, so I'm gonna take my ink, and if I don't get a good stamp the first time around, and I'm gonna be really careful, I don't wanna get this on the outer edges. Let's go ahead and put this down and see if I can get a good stamp the first time around. Not bad. I'm gonna press my luck. I want it just a little bit darker. Much, much better. Whoo! I just was worried that if I used a block, I might not get it where I wanted it to be, or I might have to stamp it again. And I didn't want to risk having to stamp it again. So let me go ahead and clean this stamp off. Anyway, do as I say and not as I do. Meaning, try to get your stamping done before you start putting everything together. All right, let me move this out of the way. The card is coming together great. We have a couple more pieces that we need to do. I'm going to do some stamping, and I'm just going to do it with blocks. I don't really feel like I need to do my stamp positioner. I'm going to pull a couple blocks out. And on the inside of this, we're going to stamp some leaves. So let me pull these off. Let's see, do I have a bigger block? I do. Put my leaves on here. And then I'm going to use my little rose again that I used on the front here. So let's go ahead and bring our ink back out again. Let me get this inked up. And you can see I was a little heavy-handed and I've got ink on the edges. I am going to go straight down and come straight back up. I do not want those edges showing. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to press, but I'm not going to rock it, and I'm not going to press those edges. But I want to make sure I get a good stamp here. So I'm being really, really careful because I know how I inked it up. And we did good. All right. Let me move that off to the side. We're gonna go ahead and do our little rose. Get my rose here, and I've got ink here too. Man, heavy-handed, I'm telling you. All right, we're gonna go straight down and straight up. Okay, so we've got that. Let's go ahead and clean this up so we don't get a lot of ink. Clean that off, and this one off. I've got ink on my glass plate, so I want to make sure I get that off before I do anything else. So I'll just pull that out, clear this off, there we go. And we're ready to move on to more assembly. So let's go ahead, we're going to ink up the back of this, or not ink it up, we're going to put some adhesive on it so we can get this glued on the inside. Okay, open this up, place this in. We've got our inside done. There we go. And then we'll do the same thing for this card. I've got this piece of Designer Series paper with this wood grain again. So what we're going to do is we are going to put some glue here and get this adhered. Slide that up so it's right up to the fold. Okay, and I've got some ink on my hands. Let me see. I've got my eraser here. I do. We're just gonna see. This is my mono sand eraser, and I'm just gonna try to take a little bit of this off the front of my envelope so it's not so noticeable. All right, now we'll take the snips and we'll do the same thing we did last time. Doing your envelopes are really easy. Once you've got your Designer Series paper cut, it's just a matter of layering it on the flap and trimming around it. Very easy. I should probably do it more often. I'm usually just focused on creating the card, but when you do a complete package, you're doing the inside and you're doing the envelope. How pretty is that when you're sharing that card with someone? All right, so we've got that, move that out of the way. And we now have card number 2 done. How fun was that? And we did it with the stamp positioner. All right, one more card to go. I'm gonna bring this one in. This is done with the Splendid Autumn Designer Series paper. It was the back side of one of them. And then I used the Sketched Butterflies stamp sets. All right, so we have our basic white cardstock. We have our black layer. We have another piece of basic white, and these are both, this one's a little bit smaller. It's going to fit inside of this basic black layer. So this is gonna go to the inside. This is our envelope layer. I have my envelope, obviously. Then I've got my black layer here, my Designer Series paper here, and then I've got a couple pieces. Let me look inside. Yeah, I have another couple pieces that we're going to stamp and layer here, and we're going to use the same technique. All right, this time we're going back to just actual stamping. So let's see how we do with this stamp set. All right, so let's start with this. I'm going to move these pieces out of the way. This is the piece we're going to stamp on. So again, I'm going to take some seal, which is here. I moved it. There it is. I'm just going to put on the back here. This just kind of holds this piece steady for me. And it's not really holding anything down, but it holds it steady for me. So let me get this lined up the way that I want it. In the center. That looks good. All right, we've got 2 different stamps that we're going to use. We're going to use the big butterfly here, and we're going to use these butterflies for now. All right, so let's do this block, and I'm going to turn it kind of cattywampus so I can get everything to fit on this one, and then we'll do the same thing here. All right, so we are utilizing the Memento Black ink. I want to make sure this didn't move. Okay, so I want to make sure that I get plenty enough ink on here, but I also want to make sure that I'm able to get this stamped all the way through. So we're going to move this up. I'm going to come up to about right here, and let's stamp. I'm going to push, make sure I get good adherence. Remember, I've got this other layer that I'm working with, and I'm not using the stamp positioner this time, so we're going to see if we can make this a go without the stamp positioner. All right, ready? All right, there is definitely a bit of a space here. And it didn't matter how much I stamped, I still have this space. We're gonna go with it. I'm gonna show you what it's gonna look like, but again, I think if I were gonna do this stamp again, I would do the stamp positioner. All right, so let's go ahead and get these guys inked up. We'll do the same thing with them. And they are going to pretty much flutter around right about here. And I'm really working hard to press these down so that they at least get some of the area off the Designer Series paper. All right, so we've got that. That one doesn't look so bad. Look how that turned out. Boy, this butterfly wing though, not so much. All right, so let's go ahead and clean these guys off. I'm looking to the inside because we've got another inside that we're going to do. We'll come back to them. We'll do the outside first, and then we'll get the inside done. All right. So we've got that. That's cleaned up. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece off. There we go, and we're going to adhere it to this black layer. So let's go ahead and get that done. If I hadn't already pre-cut these pieces, I probably would have pulled out the stamp positioner and done it again. But these pieces are already pre-cut, and I don't want you guys to have to wait for me to pull everything out and cut again. So you'll just see what happens if we don't get a full coverage. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to line this up as best I can. Actually, it's not going to look as bad as I thought it was. I'm scooching it over as far as I possibly can. These are still lining up. The butterflies are still lining up. This is lining up. I've only got a little bit of a white space here. So this actually turned out way better than I thought. Okay, the other thing that I want to make sure I do before I adhere anymore is hope is beautiful. Hope is a beautiful thing that flutters in the soul. So let me go ahead and grab this. And we're going to go ahead and get this stamped. Pull this one off. So we'll get this inked up. And then get this turned around. And I'm going to work to get this centered in right about here. I'm trying to keep my head out, but I want it to be fairly straight. Okay, let's do it. There we go. A little bit of a mark, but not bad. It will work. So let's clean this up. And now this piece, actually I already glued it down. All right. So I'm going to do the same thing I did on the last one. I'm going to go ahead and put this down, and then we're going to pop, I think I'm going to pop the black piece up on the white. I kind of did it differently on the first one I did, but this will work. Alrighty. So getting that centered. Oops, got some ink there. Oh my gosh, guys. Trying not to get ink on me. But let's get out our handy dandy eraser while we can. Some of that ink was still wet somewhere. And I'm going to work to blend it away. I don't have any gems that I'm putting on today. However, if I did have some gems, like some embellishments, I would definitely probably consider putting over this little spot. But you can see as I'm cleaning, or erasing, I should say, that it really has almost disappeared. I know it's there and you know it's there, but it's almost gone. So let's go ahead and pop this up. I feel like I'm racing against the time. My iPad is telling me that I have 3% left, and it's already died on me once. So I'm trying to race against the clock here so I don't die on you guys again. I'm going to try to piece this together when I edit it to make sure that you guys aren't so aware of that. But if something seems a little weird, it's because my iPad is dying. It's plugged in, but I guess it doesn't really care that it's plugged in. All right, let's go ahead and get this adhered. And I'm really working to make sure that I get this aligned, but I'm not using my glue, so I don't have the flexibility that I normally would have. But that looks good. We've got that. Now what we'll do is we'll do the inside. And the inside pieces, we're basically going to do the same thing again. We're going to take this piece, and I am going to set it to the inside, and we're going to center it as best we can. I've got a sentiment that we're going to stamp. Let me pull this one off. And we're going to do Thinking of You. Let's see, this one. Thinking of You. Okay. And let me see. We're going to do our butterflies again. So I've already got those out. And then I've got a little butterfly that we're going to do. All right. So let's go ahead and do our Thinking of You in the center. Line that up like so. All right. And then I'll clean this off in a minute. We've got this butterfly that we're gonna do. Make sure I get that inked up. Oh, looks like I could get some more on that edge. Okay. And we're gonna put it here. Okay. I'm trying to press to make sure that I get those edges around the designer series paper. So we've got that. That's not bad. It's not too terribly bad. All right, and then let's do these little butterflies. Okay, and we're gonna put them right about, let's see, maybe turn it this way a little bit, like so. Oop. Let's see, right here. There we go. All right, so let me get these cleaned off, just because I'm getting my hands in the ink. That cleaned off. All right, I'm gonna grab a baby wipe because I have ink everywhere. All right, so let's go ahead and we're gonna pull this off. So I'm just gonna twist it to pull it off, and then we'll adhere it to our basic black that we have. All right, so we got that there. Oh, I'm gonna obviously put some glue on it. That would help. This is gonna be the inside of our card. Okay. Squish this around a little bit. There we go. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put some on the back of this. And we're gonna line this up. So my little butterfly is here. My big butterfly is here. There we go. We've got that lined up. I see a little bit of an ink mark here. I haven't had this problem so much. Okay, you know what? I just did this on the envelope. Isn't that crazy? I was supposed to be doing it on here. So what we're gonna do, you guys know how to do the envelopes. So let me find this. Good grief. All right, so not a problem. We got it. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna trim this edge off of that envelope. And then we're gonna trim this off. We're gonna get it cut down to what we need it cut down to. I am doing makeshift, so we're doing 4, let me see, by 5 1/4. So we'll do here, this is 5 1/4, and then this is gonna be 4, so I think I'm gonna take a little bit off of the top, and I'm gonna take a little bit off of the bottom, just to kind of even it out. All right, now I've got my piece. We're going to adhere it to the inside. Isn't that crazy? Oh my goodness. Picked up just the wrong thing and I didn't even realize it was the envelope. But no problems. I saved the card. All right, so we're going to put this to the inside. And I'll grab another envelope another time. Are you kidding? Oh my goodness sakes. Ugh, guys, you're just watching me make all kinds of mistakes, all on the same card. All right, we're gonna do it this way. I put it on the wrong side. Ugh. Okay, there we go. I'll clean that up. But now we've got this card with the inside. I'll fix it up. All right, guys. Boy, that was a blunder. But you guys get the gist of how we're doing this, making these cards, and let me see if I can find the envelope that goes with that card, just so that it at least gets credit for having an envelope. So we've got this card, and then we had this one here. How fun was that, and how pretty is that? Okay, we've got that one, and then we have this one. All right, guys. So this is the to-go class for this week. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to come back and see you for just a second. I'm glad, you know, that sometimes I make mistakes, because then I can show you that I do make mistakes and these are how you fix the mistakes. But the cards turned out gorgeous. Hopefully you learned how to do some layering elegance. And if you would like, share, and comment, let me know if you've made some of the same mistakes that I made. Make me feel better. But do like, share, and comment so that I can get your names into the drawing for next week. And Diane, I've got you covered, Orchard Girl. I just need you to reach out to me so that I can get your contact information. So I'm going to bring the cards back for just a quick second. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you guys next week. Take care. Bye.